Hare Krishna. Yep, looks like we might have a live connection. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. We're continuing the introduction to Bhagavad-gita. I was thinking of something. Oh, yeah, that little buttons on the phones and on the devices. Center, we've got 3 buttons pretty much in the center of my phone, and one is a little speech box. So if anyone wants to make any comment or any reflection on anything, something that strikes you as we're reading through, then please do so, and then that will come up in a little chat boxes. I think that's what it's called, in the center of the screen. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to sing a little Jaya in my vehicle here down at Maratoto. I've got a little pair of kartals, and we'll just chant a little short Jai Radha Madhava as an introduction. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasoda Nandana Raja Janaranjana Jasoda Nandana Raja Janaranjana Munatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Haribo 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Rajagacharya Astotar Shri Srimad is Divine Grace. Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktavedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Ananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sarigora Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Sisi Radha Krishna Gogopina Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad-gita Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agana Timiranda Ganandakaya Chakshuran Militam Yetasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest. Spiritual masters forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya. So only by the blessing of His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, are we able to understand the nectar of the Bhagavad-gita, quote unquote, as it is. That was Srila Prabhupada's creation, as it is. The Gita is there. And as we've mentioned many times, the Gita had been presented for many years, even in the Western countries, so many versions of the Gita. And Prabhupada said, one lady asked me, what is the need of another version of the Bhagavad-gita? So he said that, an answer that more or less I can't really recommend any Gita to you, because to be known as a scholar or a writer, an author, you have to come up with something fresh. So you speculate and come up with this and come up with that, this nuance, this subtle difference or gross difference, whatever it may be. And this way you're known as a muni or a great thinker or presenter. And if you just present what everyone else is presenting, you think, well, why are you presenting what everyone else is presenting? You've got to present something new. But Srila Prabhupada, in the line of the Vaishnava Acharya, is very clearly explained that this is not the business of the Acharya. The business of the spiritual master, the Acharya, is to present what has been already presented in an interesting way. Not that it should be a stereotyped thing without any context to the modern environment that we're existing in. It should be presented in an interesting way, but it should not deviate one fraction of an inch from the actual statements of the Supreme Adi Guru, Lord Sri Krishna. He says that I'm going to impart this knowledge to you. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsayo vidu sakalena hamata yoganasta parantapa. This knowledge was thus received in the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in this way. But in the course of time, the succession is broken, and the science as it is appears as it is. The science as it is, Bhagavad Gita as it is, the science given by Krishna. So the amazing and miraculous effect of when it's given as it is that many thousands and millions of people become enlivened. Krishna's words, his divine instructions to Arjuna. And just as it transformed Arjuna's situation in his heart at that time, Arjuna says, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichami tvam dharma samudachetaha yachreha sannistitam brutam me sishyasti. Now I am my duty and have lost all composure due to weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me what is best for me. Now I am a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So this is the process. I don't know if you have ever found that you're confused about your duty, have lost all composure. It's especially in this modern time. It's a very confusing place, the world. And one has to seek shelter, and that's what people are doing in different ways, seeking shelter. But the ultimate shelter, again, Krishna, Bhagavad-gita, he says, Sarvadharman Parityaga, abandon all kinds of dharmas or activities that you may feel are your duty to be performed to become of safety or shelter in this world. Abandon all that and surrender unto me, Krishna says. I will deliver you. I have that potency. So in this section of the introduction, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the different potencies and how they are manifest, how they're categorized, and how we can get a clear understanding of our position, because that's the all-important thing for the little jiva. the little jiva soul is transmigrating birth after birth through 8,400,000 species of life, and he needs to get a bit of clarity around what's actually his position. Janmadashayata. This is the inquiring position of the human being. He inquires, Atato Brahma Jignasa, who am I? What is my identity? What category of energy am I? What is my capacity? How much, what capacity do I have? Yeah. So this is very, very important for the jiva to understand, and should be available in human society. Because if it's not available, then Srila Prabhupada pointed out very clearly, it's not a human society, it's a society of cats and dogs. They have no capacity to inquire into who I am, what is the purpose of my existence, and how can I come to the highest level of my potential as a living entity. They don't have that capacity. But the human being that's the species that Krishna has provided and created, so that the living entity then can utilize that facility to inquire. And then he hears from the Supreme Personality of Godhead of who he is, what his position is. So we've been hearing from Srila Prabhupada. I'll just pick it up. We'll just get a couple of the major points leading into today. Yeah, we are engaged various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in Bhagavad-gita. So that's a couple of paragraphs back. So Prabhupada's pointing this out. We are engaged in various activities, and undoubtedly we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains that we should adopt the process of linking, reuniting, reconnecting to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the process. All the sufferings of the living entity can be overcome by that linking process. Anarto Pashamam Shakshat Bhakti Yoga Adhoksaja. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Adhoksaja we can reconnect to that Supreme Lord through the linking process of devotional service. But Bhagavatam goes on to explain, but the mass of people, Lokasya Ajnanata, they don't know this, that this is the process. So Prabhupada is saying they don't know, they do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these different karmic activities that we perform. So we're thinking, if I do this, that will give me relief from this suffering. If I do that, that will relieve me from that kind of suffering. But they don't know that the actual process is to reconnect to the Supreme Source, the reservoir of all pleasure and bliss, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that it can be simply done, especially in the age of Kali Yuga. We're very, very fortunate. The nature of the Kali Yuga is explained. Manda Samandu Mataya, Mandu Bhagya Upadita. Men have but short lives. They're quarrelsome. They're lazy. They're misguided. They're unlucky. Wow. And most of all, they're always disturbed. So this is Kali Yuga being described. And therefore, the Kali Yuga, we are not able to sit quietly and meditate and perform great austerities. But in Kali Yuga, we are able to hear still. We have 2 ears, and we can hear the message of Bhagavad-gita, the message of the Supreme Lord. Then we know in the Kali Yuga, the message is presented by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he says, Hariyanama, Hariyanama, Hariyanama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, 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 gatiranyata. In Kali, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, the holy name of the Lord, there's no other way, not by karma, not by jnana, not by yoga 3 times, not by this, not by this, not by this. Only by the simplified process. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Maho Mahavaranyaya Krishna Pradayate. This incarnation of Chaitanya is presenting so magnanimously what no incarnation has ever bestowed for. Krishna was saying, you surrender, Sarvadhamam Prityaga, you surrender. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is presenting that no one wants to surrender, so don't worry about the surrender, just take this process. And if you take it with a little drop of sincerity, then all success is guaranteed. So says, and gradually by Cheto Darpanam Marjana, the mirror of the heart is cleansed by the chanting process. Again, Srila Prabhupada comes to mind. He had so much faith in the holy name of the Lord and the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the previous acharyas that he just simply sat down in Tompkins Park and he chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna. He chanted like that, chanting. And people were wondering, who is this old fellow sitting in the grass here with saffron robes and bathing shoes on? And wow, they were so mesmerized in one sense by Prabhupada, and they gathered around. And then the amazingly lovely thing that Prabhupada, he gave the chanting. So the chanting stands alone. The chanting. Prashad came very soon, but how nice it was, yes? Attracted by the chanting, people began to chant. And then Srila Prabhupada would cut up an apple like that, some small thing, and give them a little bit of like that. And gradually, he introduced rice down chapatis, and everyone was conquered by the bliss of the prasadam along with the chanting. So, simple process, somehow or other, we have to Krishna, somehow or other, because why don't belong here in the material world? We don't belong here. It's really clear. And as we read Bhagavad-gita, it becomes clearer and clearer that we are a different category of energy. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, he says that, what is that? The Bhumirapo nalo vayu kammano buddhir evacha. The different material elements are there. They're my separated energies. But above this, above the earth, water, fire, air, and ether, even the mind, intelligence, and the false conceptions of ego that we take on in the material world, there's another energy, apariyami tvanyam, prakriti vidime param, jiva bhutam baho yayate dayatam jagat. Struggling the living entities, this higher, this superior nature than this earth and water, etc. And it's the living entities, and due to conditioned life, they find themselves struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. So this is categorized that we are of a different energy. So the paragraph before today, again, the position of the Ishvara is that of the supreme consciousness. The jivas, or the living entities, being parts and parcels of the supreme, are also conscious. Both the living entity and the material nature are explained as prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord, but one of the two, the jiva, is conscious. Wow, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, the earth's not conscious. Yeah, yeah, and the different elements, they separated. They're not conscious, but the jiva conscious. That's the difference. Therefore, the jiva prakriti is called superior because the jiva has consciousness which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is supreme consciousness, however, and one should not claim that the jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection. And the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. He may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. So Prabhupada's explaining very nicely this category of the Jivatma. Now he is conscious, but he is very limited conscious. limitedly conscious. Has independence, but it's very small, very tiny, minute. The Supreme Lord is completely independent. Svarat, we are very small. Anu, we are Anu, and Krishna is Vibhu, very great. So this we have to understand. So we'll go on from there and begin from today. The distinction between the Jiva and the Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. The Lord is Kshetragya, conscious, as is the living being. But the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies. Because he lives in the heart of every living being, he is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as the controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as he desires. Krishna says he sits in everyone's heart and everything is coming from him. The living entities are seated as on a machine made of the material nature, yantra rudhani mayaya, and they're covered by the illusory energy. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the actions and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body as we take off, put on clothes. So we have to understand this too. In the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, as we go into it in the second chapter, this is very clearly explained. Dehinosmin yata dehe komanam yovanam jara tatadahantara praptirdiras tatra namuyate. The embodied soul continually passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age. Similarly, living entity passes into another body at death. So this changing, so the big change is that you get rid of the garments like the coat becomes old, you get a new coat. But that verse that I just quoted from Bhagavad Gita, the second chapter, explains that you can experience this. This is Krishna's kindness. He's explaining to us that this change of body is going on actually even within this body. Your childhood body no longer is manifest or exists. It's changed. People say, oh, it's not died, it's changed, died, same. The body no longer exists. Your childhood body is no longer current. It's gone, disappeared, died for all intents and purposes, just gone. But you're still existing. Your youthful body, for most, there may be one or two listeners still youthful, but it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. But you're still existing. You just have a body. It's called an old body. And then Krishna says, try and understand this. It's not so difficult. Just as you've changed your body from to youth to old age, death simply means that you change from old body to a new body. And that's determined by your activities. Makes absolute sense. And it's what we experience. It's not just a concocted speculative idea. But Krishna says this is the sign, the science of Krishna consciousness. So, as the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. He's compelling the living entity to act. It's not that we're just beginning from zero here when we take our birth. We take our birth due to our past karmic actions in a certain family, in a certain country, with a certain set of circumstances. That's why some people are born with a quote unquote silver spoon in their mouth. And they've got all kinds of facilities, and other people are born in pretty difficult circumstances, whatever they may be, due to past karmic actions. And the amazing thing is that the karmic reactions can kick in at any time throughout our life and they can dissipate. You can be very wealthy in your youth, maybe due to circumstances, and then by karmic reactions, you You're destined not to have that wealth for the rest of you, and it disappears. Or beauty, someone may be very beautiful and then they have some horrible accident and they're disfigured in so many ways. So the actions and reactions are constantly affecting, or the living entity has to suffer those actions and reactions. Continuing, these activities can be changed. Whoa, interesting. When the living being is in the mode of goodness, insanity, not insane, but insanity, when he's sane, and understands what sort of activities he should adopt. So we get this introduction to the idea that there are suitable activities which can create good results, and there's unsuitable activities which will have negative results on the living entity. And that can be understood in the mode of goodness. So good idea if we can come to the mode of goodness, because the effect of the mode of goodness is to gain understanding and clarity and knowledge. When passion, we become blinded by passion and rush ahead and get into all sorts of things by the passionate desire to enjoy. We don't understand things generally very well, and Krishna Gita explains that through passionate activities, the end of stress. We passionately rush ahead and end up in some distress and more passion. But it appears like nectar, Krishna says. So we go running ahead after it, but it turns into poison. And activities in the mode of goodness, oh, who wants that? Rise early in the morning, keep very clean, refrain from different activities, follow rules and regulations. Oh, it seems like poison. But Krishna says it becomes nectar. So that's the difference. It becomes nectar. So, and the mode of goodness, sanity is there, and understands what sort of activity should he adopt. If he does so, then all actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. We're not eternally damned. We keep making blues, boo-boos, blues. We make mistakes. That's the conditioned soul's propensity. But we're not eternally damned. It can be changed, although unless we come in contact with this powerful process of Krishna consciousness, then we just keep committing more and more activities. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad-gita explains that. What is that verse? It says that when a person considers sense gratification to be the goal of life, he certainly becomes mad. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. He engages in vikarma, or karmic activities which are sinful. And by engaging in that way, he becomes mad in that mode of passion after sense gratification. He becomes mad after material life and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. He doesn't realize that the body he has now has been awarded due to his past sinful activities or karmic activities. And that if he does this, he'll go on receiving one body after another in this cycle. So this is not advised. So it can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore we stated, Prabhupada saying, that of the 5 items, that is, Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, the Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, the material nature, time, eternal time, and karma, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. So that is the very good news for us, that our sufferings can be solved, we overcome. There is a process. There's actually a process to gain eternal life, to not have to. Naiti mamiti so Arjuna, Krishna says. No more birth. You don't have to do this. Instead of utilizing your intelligence to create some pill or some technology that will give us eternal life, which will never happen, can never happen. We get so puffed up by our limited potency and think, yes, we'll gradually understand how to do that. The way to do it is to take shelter of the mode of goodness, to hear from Krishna. Seventh chapter, first verse of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Tatshrino, now hear from me, Maya Shakta Manartha Yogam Yunjun Madashraya, Asamsayam Samagram Tatshrino. Now hear from me how by practicing yoga and full consciousness of me with mind attached to me, you can know me in full. That was Madhu Mangala. Madhu Mangala just drove past in his caravan. He stayed overnight at the property there. He came and popped in to say hello. So he said he would give us a beep as he went past. So that was nice. Yeah. So just hear from me, practicing yoga and full consciousness of me with mind attached to me, you can in full, free from doubt. Hear. So this is through the hearing process. So the wonderful thing is that we can utilize different abilities to try to understand what to do. As I was just mentioning, through research and ascending, the process of ascending towards knowledge, we limit ourselves actually because we are very small and have a very small capacity, and the Lord lies beyond our ability to speculate. Again, Dr. Frog, the Atlantic Ocean, oh, I can't quite understand it, as its little frog who's visited the Atlantic Ocean tells the story. So he speculates, is it bigger than our well? Is it 3 times, or is it 10 times bigger than our well? Is it that big? It's very limited. So this speculative process, Krishna says, Atasi Krishna Navadi Navavid Graham Indriyais, that you're not able to approach me with the blunt material senses. They're puny, they're tiny. But I reveal myself to my devotees when I'm pleased with them for their transcendental loving service. That's the process. Krishna is all powerful. He is the Param Ishvara. He's the supreme controller, the supreme enjoyer. His potencies are unlimited, but he's so kind that he thinks, my little children, I will take care of them. This is the process. Reconnect to me through this process. So the highest levels will be understood in due course of time. But Krishna says, just see how you can understand by reading this Bhagavad-gita, your position. It becomes very clear. You're not of this material nature. You're of a higher energy. See it, experience it. Rajavidya Rajagoyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyava Gamam Dharmyam Sukham Kartamavyayam. This process is joyfully performed, and it gives direct perception of the self by realization. This is the process of devotional service. So we can see this material world. We know it's temporary. This body I have is temporary. It will change, and finally the change will come. It's called death. It's not a speculative idea. It's absolutely clear and real. We can get pratyaksha, direct perception of this. If we allow ourselves to try to understand it, it will become very clear. So in a similar way, the higher levels of Krishna consciousness can only be understood. That means our eternal relationship with Krishna, the different realms in the spiritual world, the different Vaikuntha planets. They're all explained in the Shastra. They're all explained by the great souls who have attained perfection through this process. Krishna says many, many persons in the past have attained love for me by gaining knowledge of me through this process of Krishna consciousness. So just as all the knowledge we have now after 5 years, 10 years, 20 or 50 years in Krishna consciousness, just as that becomes very clear, we continue on this path. And the amazing thing is that all the other illusions that we may face, the other anarthas that we may struggle with, will disappear. Krishna will dissolve them, just as he has dissolved so much as we've traverse this path of Krishna consciousness. So that is the magical process of coming in contact with Krishna in any form, through his holy name, through getting the association, lava matra, a moment's association with a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. And we can gain that association. The modern technology can be utilized very nicely, and Prabhupada was very happy to do this. We're not so interested in technology, but if it can be utilized somehow or other in Krishna's service. For ourselves, we live very simply. Prabhupada said, there's so many facilities are created, but I'm very happy wherever I am, especially in Mayapur, that I could just be in my little kutia. And then in Vrindavan, I was so happy and satisfied just there at Radha Damodar. And now we've built a temple, so I'll come live in this temple. It's natural to build a nice temple for Krishna, and people of a like-minded devotees come, and there's a nice rasa. Prabhupada was happy sitting there in Vrindavan. So he wasn't sitting anywhere in the material world. He was always sitting in Krishna consciousness. So wherever he sat was the spiritual world. So I've got a feeling that I'm going to finish there because I don't want to go too far. I'm seeing that the devotees trying to, they're speaking on the introduction, are getting so much nectar from every paragraph or two. So, yes, so we'll end at that point. Therefore, we stated that the 5 items, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and karma, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. So I'll just look there. I don't think, I was talking to Madhu and he said he looks at some of the classes and he says, but he doesn't look at this time. I didn't even know it was on at 9 o'clock, that he tunes in at a different time. So we don't, as I'm looking here, seem to have any messages. So that's fine. So we thank the devotees who have joined the Sangha. It's very gratifying to read Srila Prabhupada's introduction because he's put his heart and soul into the introduction. Even if we just read the introduction, we get the whole Bhagavad-gita pretty much from Prabhupada's introduction. But then will be discussed and confirms, consolidates all the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada is presenting here in his introduction to the Gita. Dharma projita kaitavatra. This, yeah, anyway, that's going on. There is some, yeah, just a little message. It would be interesting. One devotee's listen, and the name is there. I won't mention, but if maybe we know each other, and I'm just seeing something. Like I was connecting to Hari Sori last night, and his name is Dennis Harris, and so I was looking. We were connecting on Skype, but sometimes people use for various reasons. They've got their legal name or instead of the devotional name like that. I think somewhere my name is there. Yeah. So anyway, it may be. So if you do use that other name, it would be, if you could be kind enough, because the person said thank you, just pop in, and it would be nice so that I can understand. Maybe we know each other, but I don't know that the name that you've used there, and I don't want to embarrass anyone, so I won't mention the name. But thank you for thanking. Okay, so enough of me. We will look forward to tomorrow's. I'm not sure if it's tomorrow. I think we, at the moment, I think we're covering about 4 days, but maybe it's more. We'll look forward to the next class. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki Jai. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari. Hare Krishna. press this and are you sure you want, yes.